Hello and welcome to the Woke Socialist. If you are a white, straight man who voted for Donald Trump in America, or a woman who supports them, I am going to address the elephant in the room. If you are anti-gay or anti-trans, you are in for an absolute rude awakening. Because we have the goods, and always have, on how white men govern America. Now, I come from a law enforcement and military background. And since the 1980s at least, I can document many arrests through stories I've been told of United States senators and congressmen who were caught in the act of sodomy. Now, if you don't know what sodomy is, what it meant back then was punishable by jail time. That was anal penetration and oral copulation from one man to another man. Now, if you were still MAGA men in America and hooked on toxic masculinity, you need to address the elephant in your room. The rest of us see you as gay people who hate gay people. No one marries a woman and then turns around and enamors or loves or covets another man. That is not heterosexual behavior on any level. Now, as a socialist, I have no problem with gay. I am pro-gay, pro-LGBTQ. I don't care who you are or who you love. But we need to set some standards as to what is considered gay. In my father's time, a gay man was a man who would leave his wife behind, forfeit everything that had to do with that woman, to get on his knees and worship another man. That was gay. You didn't have to engage in sexual activity. Okay, you were subservient to another man. And in my culture, as a Native American, in my culture, as a person with slave ancestry, that was considered the lowest of the low. But somehow that has been elevated, and that's not, that's on you, America. You let that happen. But when they say make America great again, what they mean is that they create this facade of wealth and purity and Christianity. And all the while, these same people that my family were arresting for committing sodomy, they had wives and children and reputations. And in the 1950s and 60s, nobody knew they were gay until they were dead, if they even knew it then. But now that shit is out in the open. People like Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, and numerous others, men, every man in Congress right now, including some Democrats that have not stood up enough to say that they are not gay for the state, as I call it. Gay for the state. That means you get on your knees and put your head in some man's lap so that you can get tenure of 7 years in Congress, so that you can get lifetime health care, protection, and pension. That's what you do. It's called a prostitute. And that's what you are. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. But I digress. Then you demean women of color by calling them low IQ. And DEI. When I wake up in the morning as a socialist, I don't pledge allegiance to any organization, any man, or any woman. And I do not wake up with a dick in my mouth. You do. So these twisted, and sick individuals are by far the most dangerous individuals, not since Adolf Hitler, but capitalizing on his legacy. Stephen Miller being the worst of all of them. Kristi Noem is second, and Pete Hegseth is third. 340 million people reside within the United States of America. And all but 1% are in peril of extinction. We need to stop being on the defense and start being on the offense. We need to reach out to our neighbors. We need to reach out to these communities that are in the streets fighting for us. We shouldn't have 5 million people or 7 million people at the No Kings protest. We need to have 100 million people in Washington, D.C., where these people sleep. This is where we need to be. I want to call some attention to the internet and what I call torture porn. People like Stephen Miller are people that should not be in charge of anything. But MAGA people voted for this. And I especially call attention to Italian Americans, Latino Americans, who consider themselves white and of white privilege now. Get the fuck out of here. Really? Y'all are some sick fucks. I was watching yesterday a Status Coup News broadcast where they were on the ground, where MSNBC and CNN were not, and they interviewed this guy walking down the street, and they were talking about Americans being deported because they were not here legally. I saw him turn around, walk down the street, and on the back of his shirt, he had an Italian flag. And yes, he did look Italian. Now let me remind you motherfuckers, you fucking greaseballs, that at one time, America did not accept you. That Italians, Jews, Negroes, and everyone who was not white need not apply for a job at certain places. But Anglo-America did the math, and they decided that a certain part of the population was light enough to become white, and that included Cubans, especially those who came in during Republican administrations, and Italian Americans who wanted to shed the cloak of the mafia and gangs and those goombas and dirtbags that they thought they brought to America. They got college educations, while the descendants of enslaved people got nothing. And they became doctors and lawyers and Republicans. Same with Cubans. The ones that came here in the 1950s got white classification. Native Americans didn't get that shit. Black people didn't get that shit. And here now, as Native Americans, black people are advocating for the civil and human rights of Latino people, not to be snatched up by ICE, but to be treated as human beings. We and American veterans are out there every day. So at what point are these sellouts to the races going to come back in our defense? Italian Americans and Cuban Americans? When are you going to fucking thank us for where you are today? Because it is on our backs that you got there. On the native and black back. You came here without citizenship. You were an illegal alien, as you call other people. But now you want to be white. Good for you. Good for you. So let me tell you something. If you live in the DMV, Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and you do not identify yourself soon with the anti-Trump movement, we already have people that's been talking to you. We know who you are. When they start looking at your black hair and locking your white ass up, we're not coming to your defense. Not at all. And for the rest of you who voted for Donald Trump, who are Latino and regretting it, and Muslim and regretting it, if you want some help, I strongly advise that you have a little confession. Stop getting on MSNBC and CNN and calling yourselves white Latinos and white immigrants. We have 400 or more years on you. So you don't get to come in here and get in the front of the line. Plain and simple. Power is only as permanent as the people allow it to be. The Trump administration, as it is right now, cannot exist for the next 4 years unless we lay ourselves down and become complacent. This is a national movement, and we will go forward. We are not tired or associated with any movement that is going to be intimidated, sold out, or silenced by the Democratic Party or the fascist regime. Just like November 22nd, I believe, was the start of something bigger than these No Kings rallies. We've moved past No Kings onto something else. And the veterans of America are leading that movement. And it is not about clickbait, podcasts, or any popularity on social media. It's about getting your ass down to Union Station, Washington, D.C., and supporting Flair and the veterans of the United States of America that served this country under the Articles of the Confederation and the United States Constitution. Now, people always ask me, what can I do? If you dare, either drive or take the metro down to Union Station, go to the cab stand, walk outside. If you walk far enough, you will see tents. Walk over there and offer a $50 or $100 donation for those veterans that have been sitting in the cold since May. You want to do something? Do that. It'll take about 1 or 2 hours of your time. And you don't have to be at a protest. All you have to do is give the same money to them that you give to corporate interests that you give to your cable company, that you give when you get gas. Sacrifice something. They did. Why don't you do the same? When tyranny becomes law, resistance becomes duty. This is the Woke Socialist Podcast. See you next time.